Hello, hello Netherlands, and France, and Switzerland, and Germany, and Belgium, and the US, and all of these wonderful 3,000 or so people who came out today. How extraordinary. Thank you so much for being here. You know, I just came from Dharamsala, just yesterday, came here. And so, first of all, I want to extend the best wishes of His Holiness the Dalai Lama to all of you here. And I'm sure you're happy to know that he was in very good health, and had come from Hunsor, where he gave some really wonderful teachings. And I wasn't there for that, but friends of mine told me that there were really extraordinary teachings, a very difficult teaching that His Holiness was giving, and he was the way he was 20, 30 years ago, with a kind of power and precision and ability to teach with great energy. So he's in really good health now. I wanted to extend that to all of you. And he reiterated that Palden Lamo has told him that he's going to be 113 years old. And I said, but is it going to be a good 113 years? And he said, yes, 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 yes. Look, you've spent most of the day talking about very important things, I know. And much of it has been a litany of all the terrible things that the Chinese have done, and specifically the Chinese Communist Party and what they've directed their people to do to the Tibetans. And it's been a horror, a great tragedy, not only for the Tibetans but for the entire world. And it continues. And now with Tibetan children being taken away and put into boarding schools, and that's in quotes because it's really a complete brainwashing experience for these kids. The continuing degradation of the environment, the damming up of all the major rivers coming out of Tibet, which is going to cause huge problems downstream in India and South Asia. And clearly they've done it in such a way that there will be a time when they siphon off and redirect all that water to China. So this is a security and a survival problem for everyone in Asia and Southeast Asia. In America, we've done a lot. And we've been able to do a lot in 35 years at ICT, but even before that, we have a lot of friends in the Congress. We've always had good relations with all the presidents in all of that time. There is a moment of deep insecurity right now with what's going on in the US. But still, everyone I talk to in Congress is a loyal benefactor and protector of Tibet. So I wanted you to know that people are still there and care about you.
Thank you.
Loden, thank you. You know, is it Loden, a great musician, and he does something more, he stands up. You know, we need to stand up. One thing that we do know over all these years is people are afraid sometimes to speak, and they said, well, we'll be neutral.
I would like to welcome MP Garnet Janis of Sherwood Park in Saskatchewan, a strong advocate for human rights and a voice for Tibet in the Canadian Parliament.
Good afternoon. It's an honor to be with you today. This is actually my first time at the Chinese consulate here in Toronto. I found out recently that I had faced a cyber attack on my personal email from APT 31, which is Chinese government affiliated. I thought if they wanted to read my emails, I'd just come here and speak to them so they could hear me more directly. It would save them the time. I want to thank you for your courage, your steadfastness in defense of Tibet and in defense of Canada. The situation, the human rights situation in Tibet is absolutely deplorable. We've heard evidence at the Subcommittee on International Human Rights of what is happening in schools, children stripped away from their families and forcibly indoctrinated. In every aspect of Tibet society, we see how the CCP tries to indoctrinate with communist ideas and undermine Tibetan families, Tibetan faith, and Tibetan freedom. We are here today to stand for Tibetan faith, family, and freedom against the colonial oppression that is happening in Tibet. Now, this is a human rights situation, but it is also a dispute among nations. Tibet is a nation. It is occupied. And I am pleased to report, as many of you know, that in this Parliament, the Canadian Parliament unanimously passed my motion endorsing the middle way approach as a solution to this dispute among nations. Unanimous position of Canada's Parliament. And we need to take that and insist on that and build on that. That is the position of Canada. That is the position of Canada's Parliament. We must be unrelenting in taking this stand for freedom and justice in Tibet and everywhere. I also want to thank you for standing up for Canada, because your advocacy has shone a light on the pernicious problem of foreign interference here in Canada that affects so many different communities. It affects our brothers and sisters in the Chinese community, in the Iranian community, in so many other communities where foreign governments are trying to intimidate and limit the rights and freedoms that people have here in Canada. We must insist that Canadians on Canadian soil, people who are not citizens who are here on Canadian soil, have the right to come to their own considered conclusions about issues, to speak about those issues, and to be able to do so without fear of intimidation or threats against their family members. And this is why we need tough, new action on foreign interference. This is why we pushed the government on a foreign influence registry, and this is why we will continue to push them on the enforcement of measures so that we can protect all of you and protect all people, regardless of their background, to have the freedoms we're supposed to have here in Canada. This is something we need to insist on, and also we need to expel any foreign diplomats that are involved in foreign interference. We need to insist on protecting our freedoms here in Canada. So we stand for Tibet, we stand up for Canada, and thank you for your leadership. Finally, I want to recognize the Tibetan struggle, I believe, is an example to all peoples everywhere who are fighting against injustice. When I first met His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I was struck by his love, his goodwill, and his desire for reconciliation. He spoke no bitterness. He spoke about wanting to have peace, reconciliation, and justice. Tibetans have insisted on that truth and have also built strong democratic institutions in exile. This is the power of your liberation struggle. Constructive, always building, always loving, always seeking the good rather than seeking bitterness and pain for the other. So thank you for how you struggle and how you set an example for all people who are seeking justice and freedom. And we will continue to fight for the middle way as endorsed by Parliament in my motion. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your work. God bless.